Hi everyone, Keren here from tuppencecolored.co.uk. Thank you very much for joining me today. This is what I've been making today. It's a pop-up box card. I do enjoy making this kind of card because they're very easy to do. They fold flat and they are quite effective. And stay with me, I'll show you how I made this one. I have my piece of crumb cake with the long edge along the top of my my simply scored board. So I'm going to score it at 1.5 inches and then again at 4 inches, at 5.5 inches and at 8 inches. Now that's going to give me about 1/4 of an inch left over. And I'm going to turn my card, so I've got that skinny bit at the bottom, and I'm going to score it at 3 inches, and I'm going to stop when I come to this score line, okay, and I'm going to flip this over, and I'm also going to score that little bit at 3 inches. Okay, it's not strictly necessary, but it will help me in a moment when I'm going to burnish those lines that I just made, just so that I can see them a bit more clearly. I'm not going to touch that one yet. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this little skinny rectangle out of the way. Fold it so that I can see where I'm going with it. And I've got my nice big scissors, and I'm just going to trim along there. I'll tidy that up in a moment or two. Just cut away that bit where I didn't cut it too well. And now I'm going to trim up along these score lines as far as the folds. And you can do this with a craft knife if that's something that you're better with. Okay, and now I can fold these pieces over. Now I can see where I haven't made a very good job of trimming those flaps. So I'm going to come back in with my scissors and I'm going to tidy those up. I have 2 pieces of crumb cake that are 3.5 inches by 3/4 of an inch, and I've scored at 1/2 inch from each end. So I've scored it at 1/2 inch and at 3 inches, and I've done that twice. And these are going to be the struts that go into my box. So I'm going to begin by putting a little bit of adhesive onto this piece, and I'm lining it up with the just below the fold of the card, at that fold, and lining it up with this fold here. Okay, so it's going like that, and then the next one is going to go right behind it, just kind of butting up to it like that. Okay, and I find that it's much easier to put these struts in at this point in the box's construction than after it's all been fitted together. Alright, so I'm just going to leave it as it is for now. I'm not going to put any adhesive on here just for now. I'm just going to let that adhesive dry. I cut 4 panels of crumb cake. 2 of them are 2.25 inches by 1.25. This one is 2.25 inches square, and this one is 2.25 by about 2 3/4. All right, that one's going to go on the back. It's going to be tucked out of the way. I just want to say that I used this embossing folder. It's called corrugated, and it's a dynamic embossing folder, which means that you put it through your big shot like this. Base platform, if you've got the kind with tabs, all the tabs open. Then your embossing folder with your card, and then one plate on top. All right, you don't need a second plate. If you try putting it through with a second plate, either it won't go through, or if it does go through, it may break your machine, and you don't want that. All right, so just be careful. Now that I've got these back, and I did spritz them with a little bit of water, I'm going to run some of my liquid adhesive along the back, and you do wind up with a panel that is slightly smaller than what you started with, and that's fine, right? Because the embossing kind of takes up some of the width of your card, and that's fine. That's great. Okay, so this one is a little bit longer than the fold of the card, and that is also fine. It helps to strengthen that part of the card. And which side do I like best? I like that side best, I think, so that's going to be my front. And I did do my best to make sure that I put my card into my embossing folder with the edges of the panels parallel with the corrugations, so that they weren't wonky. And sometimes that worked, and sometimes it didn't. Now, because these are textured, I'm trying to make sure that I've got adhesive kind of all over the backs of them. Alright, so that's going to sit on one side for the adhesive to dry while I start thinking about what's going to go inside the box. Okay folks, here's the thing. I started filming this project and it was working quite well, you know, paused at the end of the day to allow my adhesive to dry and to do a little bit of prep work, and then I came down with flu. So if this is a little bit disjointed, I do apologise. This is literally the first filming I've done for about a week, maybe more. I've still got a terrible cough, so if it goes silent, that will be because I have cut the sound so that I can go away and cough. And yeah, I just hope you'll forgive me because I didn't want to start this project again. I'd gone so far with it, and I just want to finish it now. So please forgive me if it's a little bit what's the word, disjointed. Okay, so carrying on. Before I was so rudely interrupted, I'd got to this stage and I'd taken a sponge and some Sahara sand ink, and I've just lightly sponged those edges because I want to give it a kind of a you know, a weathered, grungy appearance, because it's supposed to be a cardboard box full of bottles of nice stuff. I've taken stamps from this set, Bubble Over, and the dies that go with it, which are called, let me check, Bottles and Bubbles Framelets. And I've taken a lot of bright colours, so mainly colours from the Brights range, and I just cut out a lot of bottles, and I stamped a lot of images. Okay, so this one is in what's the colour? Poppy Parade. I think that's Poppy Parade onto Pumpkin Pie, and I used that stamp, and I just had a lot of fun, and I stamped out a lot of images, and I cut out a lot of images, and I cut out a lot of the bottles. and I discovered that actually the bottles come in two sizes, a big one and a small one, and actually the big one is a little bit too big for this, so I'm going to take away the larger bottles. Might keep that one. And again, I just took my Sahara sand ink and a sponge, and this is a just an ordinary makeup sponge, nothing fancy. There we go. Let's do it on one of these ones that I'm not going to be using, and just kind of sponged around the sides. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing that. You know, that's just something that I've just done off camera, and got a lot of other elements here. So I'm now just going to start putting these together, and going to close up. The card first of all. Just bring that over there, just like that. And which way is this going to go? A little bit of liquid adhesive along here. Here's my completed box card, and here are my elements to go inside it, and I'm just going to start putting these into here. Now I need to be careful because when the card is pressed down flat, I want it to fit into an ordinary C6 sized envelope, and that means that I can have my elements that kind of overlap as far as that edge and as far as that edge, but I don't want them moving outside of that space, because if I do that they won't fit into the envelope. So I'm just going to stick these pieces in, and I'll speed up the film, give you some music to listen to, and we'll chat again when we've finished. And I've put all of my my little bottles into my crate. So now I want to add my sentiment, and I'm taking it from that same stamp set. It says, "May your day bubble over with happiness," and I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black, and I'm inking up with lots of light tapping. And I'm just pressing that down and counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, because this is a photopolymer stamp, I can see where I'm stamping, but I also need to have something a little bit squishy underneath. I like to use my silicone mat. I know that a lot of people like to use something like a mouse mat or a pricking mat, something like that. I find this gives me just about enough squish, but you know what? You do what works for you. Okay, so now I'm not going to do anything particularly fancy with this, I'm just going to just trim this down with my scissors. Okay, and there's a certain amount of by eye going on here, so I'm just going to trim that into shape. And as you can see, not measuring anything, just trying to decide whether to kind of banner those ends. And I think I will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim up about halfway and then just trim in, just like that. And same thing on this side. Just to give it that, you know, that fancy edge. And yeah, let's do a little bit of sponging just to bring it all, you know, make it all kind of hang together a little bit. And it's a little bit grungy, and that's fine. It's exactly how I want it. And let's call that. And I've got a couple of little heart shapes left over from my marathon cutting out session, so we'll add those as well. Now again, I want to keep it within this edge, but not too bothered if it goes over the top. Okay, so a little bit of liquid adhesive about halfway. And I've got another one of these just lying around here, so I pop that on. And I think it is time to step away from the box card. And that's it, folks. That is my finished pop-up box card, which will stand up and be very impressive on your shelf or your mantelpiece, wherever you want to display it, but it will also fold up flat and fit in an envelope so that you can send it through the post. So that is it, flu notwithstanding. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then leave me a comment in the section below. I'd love to hear what you think about it, and if there was something you didn't like, tell me about that as well, because that will help me improve and help me make better videos for you. But that is it for today. Thank you once again very much for joining me, and I hope I'll see you again sometime soon. Bye bye.